Welcome back to the Outdoors 460 channel. Today I want to cover one of my absolute favorite plants for shade in the eastern United States, the Tiarella, also known as the foam flower. If you have shade anywhere on your property that gets good moisture but is well draining, I highly recommend this plant for those areas. It's a wonderful plant from, just the aesthetics. It's got beautiful blooms in the spring. It's a semi-evergreen. In my area, I'm in 6B, and it's pretty much evergreen throughout the winter. It's very low maintenance. It does spread, but it spreads very sensibly. It's not going to overtake an area. So what I thought I'd do today is take you through some of the specifics of this plant and then take you outside and actually show you the specimen that I have at my house. So let's get into it. So the botanical name is Tiarella cordifolia, and it's in the family of the Saxifragaceae, or Saxifragaceae, however you want to pronounce it. And the other plant that you're all familiar with that's in that same family is the heuchera, aka the coral bell. These two plants are related. A lot of times people refer to them as cousins. They look a lot alike, but they are distinctly different. The native range, as you can see, is pretty much all of eastern North America. All the way from Canada, where you're up in zone 3, all the way down to Florida and the Gulf Coast. The height you can see is 6 to 12 inches. Now that would include those spikes that you see there, the flower spikes. The spread says 12 to 24 inches, and I think that's accurate. The one plant that I have now has kind of maxed out, and it's probably pushing a little bit further than that. I would say maybe 26, 28 inches. But a single plant, that's what you can expect. The bloom time is mid-spring to early summer. In the area I'm in, like I said, it's a 6B, 7A. It blooms typically the second and third week of May through the end of the month. The flower color is primarily white, but in some cases you will see they develop some pink tones as well. Now, to get your plant started, this is where it's important. Choose a site with partial to full shade and moisture retentive soil. The plant I have is planted in a walkway, and this plant gets no direct sun. Now, there's light all around it that shines, so there's light in this area, but never at any time of the day does sun directly hit this plant, and it's doing fabulous. As it says here, morning sun is fine, but avoid hot afternoon exposure. Because what will happen with this plant, as well as like the coral bell, if you put them in full sun, they're just going to shrivel up and eventually just disintegrate. Ideal near trees, along paths, or in a woodland garden. Now, one thing I'll say about putting them around trees is you'll want to put them where the soil is going to get moist, but is going to be well drained. So you probably want to put them somewhere out near the drip line or out beyond it to where they're getting good shade, but they're still getting moisture. If you put it up under the canopy, it's probably going to be too dry for this plant. Now, how to plant them? It's pretty simple. You space them 12 inches apart. I probably would go a little bit further than that, maybe 15, 16 inches because they do spread. I would amend the soil with compost or organic matter. And the area where I have my plant is naturally that way. It's very organic there. There's been a lot of leaf compost over the years that has broken down. So that soil, unlike other parts of my property, is very rich there. Set the root ball level with the surrounding soil. You don't want to have it buried deep to where, water is just going to accumulate there, because what will happen is you'll get root rot. Even though the plant wants to be in moisture-rich soil, it wants soil that's well drained. And most plants do. They don't like sitting in water. And again here, pretty typical, water deeply after planting and apply 2 to 3 inches of mulch around it. Now that part about the mulch, you don't want to have the mulch up around the stem. I would put the mulch out beyond the edge of the plant because, again, with mulch, it's going to retain moisture. And sometimes, when there's too much moisture like that and the leaves are touching it, you could get fungus and slugs and things like that that could be attracted to that. Now, quickly, I'm going to go through the light, soil, and water. I've already covered some of these points. Again, partial to full shade is ideal. Tolerates dappled sunlight under trees. Some morning sun enhances foliage color. Now mine, like I said, gets no sun on it at all, and it's got beautiful color. Avoid the direct afternoon sun. That causes the leaf scorch. Like I said, it scorches this plant as well as the heuchera, the coral bell. As far as watering, keep the soil consistently moist, but not waterlogged. That's key. The next point under water, established plants tolerate brief dry spells. Now that's when I typically water mine. During like July and August, we always get those dry spells where there's like 2 or 3 weeks where it doesn't rain. That's when I end up watering my foam flower. And again, the mulch, I talked about that. The soil, humus-rich, well-drained soil, slightly acidic to neutral pH. If your soil has too much clay or it's too sandy, you need to amend that soil. You can amend it with compost or sweet peat, whatever, to get that soil more organic. And that final point under soil is where you find these plants in the wild is out on the woodland floor in these kind of conditions, where they're going to be in the full shade or dappled sunlight or areas that get, maybe just some morning sun. So before I take you outside and show you the plant that I have, I thought it would be a good idea to take a look at some of the companion plants and some of the garden uses for the Tiarella. So taking a look at companion plants, obviously hostas. Any plant that's going to do well in shade is going to be a great companion plant for the foam flower Tiarella. So again, hostas, native ferns like lady fern or ostrich fern, heucheras of all kind. And typically in the garden centers, you don't find foam flowers, just the straight foam flower. To find this plant, you're going to have to go typically to a native plant sale to get the true native species. Now, what is popping up in garden centers, and it's becoming more and more popular, are what is called heucherellas. And that's a combination of a coral bell with the foam flower. Again, they're cousins, so there's been a lot of crossbreeding of those two. And they've got some very nice specimens. But again, those are native cultivars. So what they've done there typically is taken the American heuchera, which is native to a good portion of the eastern United States, and bred that with the Tiarella. But again, to find the true native species, what I found is you're going to have to go to a native plant dealer or to a native plant sale in your area. And some other plants, obviously, astilbe, Solomon seal, and even your spring bulbs. Now, the garden uses, very obvious. They're just a beautiful plant, so you want to put them in for aesthetics. They're also great for ground cover and weed suppression. I can tell you, under this plant, there are no weeds because it just spreads out. It's got a very thick foliage canopy, and nothing grows underneath it. They're great for erosion control on slopes. They're beautiful in woodland borders and paths like you see. Look at this path. Isn't that beautiful? And also, they do well in containers, provided they're in an area that has shade and you're watering them correctly and that container has good drainage. So those are some points about the foam flower heucherella, and now I want to take you outside and show you the plant I have. Okay, and here's the foam flower I have planted at my house, and you can see I have it planted in a courtyard between two buildings, and it's along a walkway, and it's in an area that gets 0 direct sun. That's as close right there as the sun gets to it all day, and it's doing fantastic. Now this area, I can tell you, does get good moisture because the moisture comes down off of the buildings and drips down there and off of the gutters, but it's in well-drained soil. And what I've found is that is the best environment for this plant. If you got a situation where there's just a few hours of sunlight, not direct sunlight during the heat of the day, or, in an area of deep shade where it doesn't get any direct sunlight, but it does get adequate moisture in well-drained soil, this plant is going to thrive. And you can see it's thriving right now. It's in full bloom, and this is May 14th, and it's doing just terrific. So that's the foam flower, scientific name, Tiarella. Well, in wrapping up, I want to thank you very much for joining me today on this journey and taking a look at the Tiarella, the foam flower. Like I said, it's one of my favorite native plants, especially for shade areas. You can't find anything better, in my opinion. So I highly recommend this plant. And if you found this video beneficial, please hit the like button and also leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Do any of you out there have Tiarella in your gardens? What's been your experience with this plant? Tell us about it in the comments. Again, thank you for joining me, and I will catch you on the next one.